about business. I want to talk about 10 key lessons that I've learned. And these are things that I'm going to be real. You don't learn this on, YouTube. You really don't even learn this in books. You learn this through experience and really working with people who are mentoring you to get you to the next level. So I'm going to share insights, and I'm going to go deeper and share lessons behind the scenes and all of that for those who are in the vault. If you're not in the vault, you get to enjoy this for however long, 24 to 48 hours. So do take notes, and let's go ahead and dive in. All right. So I actually had 9 lessons, but I thought of another one that's really important. And so I want to talk about that first before it leaves my mind. So important lesson number 1, and let me go ahead and post this in the group so that they know that I'm going to be answering questions for those who are going to join me behind the scenes, backstage. But number 1 is that there's a difference between revenue and cash flow in your business. And so if you've ever felt like I'm making money, I have sales, but you feel like you're always needing to spend money. So let's say you got a bunch of orders, that's great, but now you have to restock everything. And so pretty much you're spending the same amount that you just made. That is something I felt like I was just going in a circle doing that. For the people who have products-based businesses, especially, this is a big one. But even for services, because there still is, you might spend more on the tech side or other things. And depending on the way you set things up, this may be a problem for you. If you notice that, you are in business, but the account or accounts that you have are not really growing, they have about the same amount, you really need to look at increasing your cash flow. So I'm not going to talk too much on any of these points. I only want to stay about maybe a half an hour. But for this, I will say you have to understand that there's a difference between like revenue, which is just the sales or the cash that you collected, and then profit, right? And then the cash flow. So a lot of people, most businesses, probably more than half, have a problem where their margins are way too small. And so a lot of people are just picking prices based on what they think people will pay or what they saw other products, other people or businesses charging, and they're not even making the prices strategically. And so number 1, if you don't know how much each of your ingredients cost, that could be homework number 1 of going and doing that if you have a physical product. If you are shipping products and sending it, so how much does the box cost you? How much does it cost you per label that you may have? How much does it cost you for the ink? Are you putting things in the package? How much does all of that cost? And making sure that your prices align with it. That's the price is like the biggest thing for entrepreneurs, herbal entrepreneurs, especially because you want to help people. You see people are sick. You practically want to give things away because you want people to have it so badly, but you're not even thinking about are you going to be able to help people, and how are you going to maintain a business if you don't do those things up front. So that's number 1, is making sure that you actually have profit margins. Then 2, looking through all of your finances. A lot of people have softwares that they're not even using anymore, or that don't justify the price, or they can actually have another option. So you might need to do that. Look at the things that are costing you the most, that are not giving you the return on investment, and look at maybe downgrading, maybe going to another service and switching, or maybe just eliminating them completely. That's another thing. People don't pay attention to things like the metrics to even know if they're getting a return on interest. So they spend years doing the wrong thing over and over and over and don't get traction, right? And then for cash flow, another thing is, and I just thought, well, I could just, whenever I need to buy things, I can buy it. And so I didn't look at things like funding or getting credit or different things like that. But that's really important. You never know when you'll need it. And so you need to actually build up the credit before you get there. You need to get history with maybe if you want to use your bank, get history with the bank, and all of that takes time. So then another thing is setting things up before you get there. A lot of people are just going with things and just doing things right when it's needed instead of preparation. And so you have to really shift from thinking like an employee or like this is a hobby. And if you actually are having a business and you want to have longevity and you want it to be sustainable for you, then you need to set it up like that from the beginning. You're not just going to stumble upon a business that just works and everything is just systematized and organized. No, that's something you actually have to do. And so preparation is very important. Another thing is get into the investment mindset. So a lot of people, and this is myself included. So these lessons I'm sharing are all things that I've learned. So that means that I've made all 10 of these different mistakes that I'm telling you. Um, and just for context, I had started with a product-based business and I still do make the products, but it's not actually my main focus. Now the main focus is Yas Apothecary, which is our school. But I started, so almost a decade of experience that I have. And so with that product-based business, I had just even, I believe when I stopped on Etsy, it was like 800-ish sales on there. I had over 1,000 on eBay, and then I had all of my thousands of sales on my website. And so I know what I'm doing in the product-based business. And then from what I've learned, I was able to get even more success now in Yas Apothecary. But Yas Apothecary is more of a service. And so I know both of those ends. And so the lessons I'm sharing will be helpful and applicable because people always feel like, well, for my specific special business, and it does apply, but you have to get in the mindset of actually investing. So a lot of times, and this is how I started, free videos are wonderful, right? Free resources from people are wonderful. But at some point, you're going to have to invest. Businesses cost money. And I like to say that, the business has, and I'm always like, how much do I want to share? How deep do I want to go? Because there's other things that I'm going to be sharing. But it's very important to know, and this was for me to know, that a business is not emotional. A business needs money. That is what breeds a business. And so you have to make money. And in order to make money, you do have to invest in yourself. You have to invest in yourself mentally to be able to run a business to be successfully. And it makes sense on why you struggle, because if you've never done it, if you've only been on the employee side, you won't know what's really needed. But there are many people who don't even give 100%. Like, so when you think about your energy, let's say, for me, I'm a stay-home mom. A lot of my energy and focus goes to my faith first, I always say, then my family, and then my business, right? But when I'm giving energy to my business, even in the amount of time that I have, I give it 100%. I put in 100%. I'm always investing. I'm always learning. And so for me, even with all of that, I would say maybe I give 33% at the most. But for many people may have a job, they give it maybe 1 hour. And so if you divide your 24 hours in the day, how much are you giving to your business? If you divide how many hours are in a week, 24 hours times 7, right? Whatever that is. I'm thinking of 140 plus, what did I say? Plus 28. So 168 hours, right? So what percentage of that are you actually giving to your business? If you're giving 10%, but you're expecting results that are above average, right? It doesn't make sense. And so that was something that had to shift for me, is knowing that whatever the Bible, right? The creator, he doesn't lie. So whatsoever you sow is what you will reap. So if you're sowing in 10%, then you're going to also reap 10%, and maybe even 1/10 of what you could do. And so if you're not investing, so people want to, and this is what I did too, always looking at the cheapest option and just throwing things up there. If you have a website and you don't even want to invest in just getting a domain, but you have like slash Squarespace or slash Square Store, or whatever it is, if you don't even take yourself seriously, nobody else is going to take you seriously. And so we really need to look at, do I fully even believe in myself? Do I even fully believe in my business? A lot of people do not. And it shows, because once you have to part with some money, it shows. And so be very realistic in what you're trying to achieve, and look at what are the ways that you can give. Now, you don't always have to give, right, 100% in every single area. So maybe you give more time than money. Maybe you do both. But whatever you sow is what you will reap. So we need to be realistic. There's people with so many big goals, but they don't spend the time. They're not putting out content. They're not sending out emails. They're not following up with people. They're not doing networking. They're not doing any of these things. They're not reading books. And so it makes sense. So prioritize cash flow. What are things that you can do? So other than sales, because that's like the most utilized skill, and it really shouldn't be utilized as much as it is. But people always just think, well, if I just put things on sale, then I will get sales or revenue. But you could think more strategically. So it can look like, if you have things that are recurring subscriptions, like if you have a subscription box or whatever, making sure you're setting it up so that around the times when your sales are slower, seasonal, whatever, that you will be able to maintain sales. So for instance, in my business, we have different memberships. I have right now on the website, there is one that you can get, the student membership vault, and that is every 2 weeks is the lowest you can do. And it's a 2 week commitment for people who are like, oh, I don't know if this is really for me. They can get in and see if they like it or not and see if they want to stay. From the next one up, you can do 6 months. And then you also can get a lifetime of the student membership vault. Then we also have the Herbal business vault, and you can do a month of that. And so you see there is revenue that can come in every 2 weeks, every month. We do special like promotions where you can get like 3 months or something like that back in the day. Some people even have years. So we have people 2 weeks, month, 3 months, 6 months, a year. So you can see that that is different times when things are coming in, even when we're not doing like big promotions. Another thing is doing promotions like launches. I'm going to be talking more about that because that really is what unlocks a lot of things for me in my business. And I'm not going to go into that too deep because I have 10 different things I'm talking about. And also because I have other things that I hopefully will share depending on how it is received. But that's another thing, doing launches. So if you notice at the end of the month, things are not really happening, well, then maybe you need to do a launch during that time. Same thing with the first of the month. So also, if you have expenses in your business that are reoccurring, right? Do you know all the dates that these things are coming out so you can plan accordingly? If you don't, that is something that you need to have. This year in my business is definitely like a pruning time. Like I always think of things in seasons because that's how the Father thinks of it. And so he really has me in a season of pruning and getting everything perfect. It's like the preparation. And so reports are very important, knowing the data, right? And so one simple thing that you can do, I talked about knowing the price of all your physical ingredients, knowing the price of all your software, et cetera. If you're a service-based business, then you also need to know so it's not just important to know the price of things, but know the dates that things are coming in as well. And so that's very important because a lot of times people will plan for maybe the monthly things, but then they don't think about the thing that they have to do every single year, like renewing a business license or all of those things, or insurance, etc. So have a list of all of the different things and breaking it down. And then also seeing what are the categories that you're spending the most in. And that can tell you whether you are getting the return on interest in them. So in my business, the most important, or not the most, well, the most important, and then also the thing that we spend the most on is the team. So I pay myself, I'm a team member. And then I have two others that are paid every single week and work in the business, Monday through Friday, etc. And so that's the number one resource. And all of that, it makes sense. That's usually what it is in businesses. But then the next thing is like our software. And that makes sense because we have memberships, we have courses, all those different things, right? But I'm always looking at what are the things that we're not using and maybe changing a plan. So that's another thing. The next thing I would say is things like books, physical merchandise. And what I find is I don't typically buy like every single month. I usually buy in bulk. And so you have to account for that. So you need to also know what is your spending habits. Now, one of the things that you can do, a very simple thing, is just getting your statements in the mail and actually, looking at them and analyzing what your patterns are. They make it very easy for you. They tell you how much money came in and how much money went out. There's different softwares that you can have, and I'm not really going to, I think they're all about the same when it comes to like bookkeeping, but that can do that for you. But it's very important that because it can tell you need to slow down in places. And especially if you're noticing that your spending is outweighing the things that are coming in. Okay, so that's the most I want to spend on that. I said I want to spend about 30 minutes and I already spent 15 minutes. I'm only on number one. So we're going to go to number two. Now, I need to just pay attention to also if I have any in the chat. All right. Number two is there is money and the follow-up. Another thing that people do is they'll have like a promotion or whatever. They'll send out like one email and they'll say, oh, I didn't make my sales goals, and they'll give up. But what I found is that follow-up is very important, and not just even in like you have to understand like how your buyer thinks and how they react. So now I know If I have a promotion, let's say it's 7 days, there will be people who will come in on the first day. There'll be people who come in the middle, and there's typically people who wait until the seventh day, and even the seventh day, like in the last hour. Like that's a big thing. And so you need to know that it's very important for you to make sure you're speaking to all those different people, and so you have touch points for all those different people. A lot of people, maybe they'll do doing something for 7 days. If like day four comes, they're not really seeing the sales, they'll stop. But it's very important for you to do that. The other thing that's really important as well is reaching out to the people who have already purchased from you. The people who purchased from you before will typically purchase from you easier than a new person. And that's something I learned when I looked at our analytics. I was very surprised because I looked at our top 25 customers and all of them purchased from me more than 5 times. And so, except for one. So, 90 it was 90 whatever percent, whatever that is, 96% all purchased. I want to say they purchased over 10 times, which really surprised me. But it's because we are responding, right? We're engaging with them in comments. We send them personalized emails. So another thing is when it comes to sales, sales are fine, promotions are fine, but it doesn't always have to be like everybody's gonna sell. So what I do is I do special secret sales for those who are our most VIPs, or I do secret sales and do promotions for just our students, or I'll do it just for like our affiliates. And so when you do things like that, and you're also taking the time out to write them, see how they're doing. All of those things are very important when someone comes, and this is a big thing because we just had our business kind of broke, I'll say, a couple of days ago. Something happened with the automation. But like when people are interested in something and they reach out to you, why don't you reach out back to them? When people tell you that they're interested in something and they don't necessarily purchase right away, something may have happened. So following up with people. And so I don't like social media. I think I'm very vocal about that. Like I'm not a social media person. I make the content, then my team makes it go out. They interact. They do different things with different people, and so that protects me, my peace, and also it gives them things that they like to do and enjoy. So what I've looked at is sustainable things other than social media, because I've noticed a trend with social media becoming much less organic and much more pay. And I've noticed even YouTube going in that way. I already knew that about Instagram. I already knew that about Facebook, but I noticed that even more. And so, so what do you do then? You can keep pumping out 10 times as more content to get the same results, or you could look at another avenue. And so we changed our business model. So we are really focusing more on just outreach, things that are not on social, and really speaking directly to the people who already have shown that they're really interested in what we have, that they're serious. And like you don't have to go, you can go against the grain. You don't have to do what everyone else is doing or think that you are confined. I believe that you can build a business around whatever it is that your goal is, and whatever your type is, your sales type, and all those different things. So I'm all about just going for that. And so that's what we've done more. But one of the things that we've done is who have um, people who have purchased a guide from us. You may have, if you are on any of the platforms and you've gotten something from us, we reach out and say, did you get your guide? Like, do you have questions? We do that. We spend time speaking to people, learning about the things that they need. And naturally, when you're helping people out, you will eventually, when you help other people, you'll also receive too. So that's a really big thing. Okay. Um, don't get discouraged if people don't do whatever the action is right away, and just come with actual, service and caring about people, letting them know. One of the things that I try to do is, because I don't speak to too many people, I try to remember things. And so like if you've ever had a call from me, I try to bring back an example of something that you said, like, oh yeah, you said that you had however many children. Oh yeah, you said that you just moved from whatever. I always try to remember things about people. It's very important. So to let people know that you actually do care about them, right? All right, so that's number 2. Number 3, train your team to work without you. So that's a big thing. We've done a 180, and actually my goal is to actually get them to be able to work without me. But that took, it takes time and it takes systems. And so one of the things that we are doing is every time that we do a task for the first time, we're documenting, taking a video of the whole process, talking through it. We have written also as well. And so we're very organized. And I do actually show the software that I use, and I show more about this organization and how I do it. But I always try to plan the whole year because you never know what can happen. I'm a person who likes to do family vacations, things like that, and I don't want to be tied down and feel like I have to. So when things break, like when a software is down or when something happens, I like to have backups. And I'm a proponent of one is none and two is one. So I always try to have three different things. Okay. But one of the things that I do is right now we are working on, we almost have all of our blogs scheduled for the rest of the year, or we do have all of our blogs scheduled for the rest of the year, except the ones that are recipe based that we do for our library herbal wisdom. But I actually have all of that made, but we're just actually, they're working on setting that up. So we have like 4 more blogs left to have all of our blogs for the rest of the year. Then after that, we're working on getting all of our YouTube posts for the rest of the year. We're increasing to do one a day. So there's lots of preparation, right? But if we look on the granular level, I know how many pieces of content I need on each platform. So like on Instagram, we'll do 2 carousels and we'll do a reel 5 times a week. So that's 7 days. On YouTube, we'll have 7 different posts. And I decided I want to do videos once every 2 weeks, right? So once you do that, you can quantify how many pieces of whatever you need, right? And so then the next thing I thought about was I have one person who's over like the content, she'll take all of my writing and she'll put it into a nice blog. She'll add the pictures, she'll format it the way I like it, all of those different things. She'll do the captions or different things like that, right? So she already knows what she needs to do each week then too. She knows how many pieces need to go out, what pieces need to go out, etc. I'm a person who always has ideas that I can't even execute all at once. So what do? I write those down. And so what I've done now is a system where every single week they can go and pull things. So I have an archive. They can go and pull things, put it on their board to do. And so they'll just check it off and they know they do the same exact every week. Then it's literally operating without a need for me. That's very important for a person who says that life is life, and right? Things are always happening, things are changing. And I want to be available when things happen. I homeschool my 2 children. We're about to actually start, like it's so super. We do it really year round, but I have to pay based on the state law. I start a school year in August, so it's coming up. Okay, but I do that. So it's going to be for a 3rd grader and a 1st grader this next month coming up. And I have a little one who is 13 months. So I have a lot of stuff going on. My husband works very hard, works a lot of hours. So typically I can be by myself for days doing different things. That's the season we're in. So I need to make my business work for me. Now, whatever it is for you, you need to think about what is the life that you want to have, what's the business that you want to have, and how you can make those things work. I probably should have waited till later to say this because for people who don't have like a team or whatever, it can be overwhelming. But what I can say is a small actionable step for you would be to start now implementing or having a list of different tasks that you do and thinking about what your goals are and get it down, black and white, get the actual numbers down so that you can have, maybe you don't have the whole year planned out, but maybe you can have 2 weeks out. Maybe you can have a month out or at least a week out. A lot of times people are just doing things week to week to week. And so get into the proactive mindset. You never know what can happen. And you don't want your business now to be suffering or your business to really be non-existent just because you aren't there. You want to build a business, or at least for me, I wanted to build a business where I wouldn't have to like baby it all the time. Like things can actually be working without me having to do something. So like when last year when I got pregnant, and then when I wanted to have maternity leave, I was able to do those things. But it starts actually planning ahead. All right. So that's number 3. Number 4, a clean, and this goes with it too. For the people who are just don't have that organized brain or personality, just bear with me as I get through this next step. But I also learned like a clean back end makes for a well oiled machine. And what I mean is that stop doing the same things over and over and over. Stop looking for single pieces of things. Like you are needing to do something and then you need, oh, let me go find this link, and you have to go to the website and get the link and get it, and then you need to go get this and that and that. So how things organized and in one place. So that was a big thing. And you'll know that you're organized when someone else can also find things and not just you. So that was something that was very important for me. I'm just a more of an organized person. And I just made it easier so that I could have all the different forms that we have in our business. All of them are on a sheet. Quick, I can go to the sheet, find the form that I'm looking for. Then the next thing I need to do was alphabetizing different things too, to also make it easier as well. Um, all of the different products that we have, their description, what they include, all of those things. And you know what? That makes it so much easier. So now when someone reaches out and they're like asking a question about something, my team already knows and they don't have to ask me as well. They can go and find things easily. So make things easier for yourself. It may take 5-10 extra minutes, but you're actually going to save so much more when you don't have to like stop everything to try to go find this and find that. The way to be productive is to actually work on something without interruption for a while. That deep work is very important. So get your things organized. It's very important. And people, and one of the things that I say, or one of the things, or the reasons why you might think that it's not important is because when it's just your business and it's just you working in it, nobody else sees it. So, right. So it's not like a messy room or a messy house or like a messy lawn, because a lot of people care about lawns or whatever. So other people aren't seeing it. So there's really like no real reason for you to feel like it's urgent. But you have to think about the opportunity cost that you're losing by spending extra 10 minutes every single day doing tasks. So it's very important. All right. Oh, I got some chat. Okay, cool. Greetings, greetings. Greetings are awesome. All right, cool. I'm great. Thank you. How are you? All right. Nothing is urgent. This is a big one for me. My personality. And it's funny because, when people see you on social media, they think that they know you, your personality or whatever. And one of the things that I'm big on is letting people know, like, no, I'm just like a person like you. I'm not like perfect. I don't have everything all together, all of those different things, right? I get to choose when I show up and all of those different things, right? So, but one of the things that was big for me is emotional regulation. And the thing is, you could feel like, oh, I've done a lot of work and self work and practice until you're actually put in situations where it is to test. So I think one of the things of before you become a parent, and especially like a stay at home mom around people all the time, it really tests your restraint when it comes to your emotions, your emotional regulation. And so in business, it also tests your emotional regulation, because at any time, many things will go wrong. That's just a part of business. And so one of the things that I've learned, and this took me a while, is to understand to really protect my energy, like I talked about. And so I realized that nothing's urgent, nothing is too big. So I'll talk. I alluded to this earlier about something breaking in my business. So we had an automation, and it was going haywire. So it was supposed to send one email to a person who did a very specific task. But what it did was it triggered every person in our list every single time this action was done by any person. And the funny thing was, so basically, whenever you viewed a certain page, you would get just like if you have a cart and you leave your cart behind, you get an email. So whenever you went to this page, it was like, hey, we saw you were looking, we, offering to, show them a little bit more behind the scenes, answer questions that they may have, just going, deeper with them, the follow up, right? So when we did this, what happens was they got this email, right? And it brought them right back to the same place. So every single time someone was going back to the place, every single person on the list was getting an email. So then we had people who are like, I got so many different emails, from you or whatever. So I would say years ago, that would have really like frazzled me, especially, but to, today I would say that I'm much better. So, okay. So once they told me what the issue was, right? So we investigated it. We couldn't find the problem or whatever, like that. Like we had a process or whatever. Another thing that I've done is because I'm a I'm an introverted person. I'm also an empath, right? So I had to. That's why I had to separate from social media. I don't get notifications like so. I know how many people are coming in, but I don't look at the numbers of who unsubscribes or different things like that. I don't look at those types of things. But so we weren't able to catch it, I guess, that way to see like, oh, this happened more than usual. And when I actually looked to say, okay, so let's see the backlash. I wanted to see the aftermath. After this happened, okay, these people got dozens of emails. I looked at the amount of people that we lost. And so I would say also years ago, that, well, before I say that, what we did was we investigated, we did all these different things, we turned it off, we did tech support, all those different things. And then also we sent out an email, so we let people know. So in case people don't look at their emails all the time, they became aware of it. But we also did that so that more people wouldn't be continuously flooding our inbox telling us about this issue. Also, like when one person discovered this, we made sure that everybody on the team knew, okay, this is the response that we're giving, this is the protocol that we're doing. So like the people who were very kind, just letting us know, okay, so we gave them loyalty points and everything like that, right? Okay, so once this happened, I got in front of it, did an email, we sent an email letting people know what happened, apologize and everything like that. And then I also, because I prepare, I have so many different things already made, so many things that like if someone needs it, I'll just throw in things all the time to people. And so we had something that was already made, something that I just decided to give them as a free gift. So, one, if you didn't know what was going on, but you saw the email, then you're like, oh, okay. So now I know if I have a problem, like I can reach out to them, that they care and that they also will make it right. So we took something that was negative and maybe we annoyed some people, but we were able to hopefully appease many different people. Um, and when I saw, the numbers, I saw people that, left or whatever. And that can be because if you are building like a list or a following, you know that, it's hard to do it. It's harder to get people than it is to lose them. It's very easy to lose people. Um, but, I was like, actually, when I looked at it, I said, people are going to leave no matter what. Right. But for what happened, it could have been much more. So that shows that the people who are a part of our community actually just, really are like, really ride with us hard. So it wasn't like a big deal. It could have been much worse. I would have thought it maybe would have been much worse. And so even just whenever I see negative things, I understand like it's not important. And I think about, it's not the end of the world. Other things that happen in the business and things don't go the way I like, I have to tell myself, I had to be honest. And I'm like, okay. So one time I had to say, other than your ego being hurt, right? Or other than your feelings being hurt, nothing else, like nothing else big, happened, right? And so being able to look at things logically and not emotionally is a skill that you really need to develop. And part of the things that can help with that is, like I said, the preparations, the systems. So like we have systems for when something goes wrong, what can happen. So another thing that I did for my business to be able to work without me is that I the people who work for me who answer and do customer service, whatever, they know that they can give a coupon. I'm not gonna say the price. They can give up to a certain amount to a person. So if they feel like this person deserves, a coupon or whatever, they can do that. They don't have to ask me like, oh, this person had this problem. I made it so that very little things need to be escalated to me. So that was a big thing, a big time saver. And because I'm emotionally attached to my business, I don't want to be attached to, customers, saying negative things about me, in the messages or, anything like that. So it was very important to do those things. And so do know that things are going to go wrong in your business. Just try to catch it, try to be prepared, right? Have backups. Like we have this central hub where all of our different tasks are delegated. It went down one day. And instead of like panicking, it led me to set up contingency plans in my business. So, like I said, this is really a pruning time, and I actually was very grateful to the Father for the. And this probably sounds funny, but I was very happy that He did that at a time when we that I could just learn from it, and so it didn't happen later on when it could have really damaged our business, our reputation or something like that, right? So I'm happy that, he exposed a problem very early on and did that for us, right? So I'm on number 6. So I guess I'm not doing 30 minutes. I'm on 35. I'm going to do an hour. We're getting close to the end. And I hope that this was helpful and valuable. And I hope that you all are taking notes, okay? Because these are really important. And think about the things that I'm saying and the actual steps that I'm saying, but then also make more think about the things of the weaknesses that you have, and think about what you could do, what's your backup plan, and all of those different things so that you don't have the same mistakes. All right. Number 6 is the build repeatable systems. And I think I talked about that. But one of the things is when something works, just continue to do it, and just continue to do it better, and just continue to throw more effort, more whatever behind it is really important. But also, that is what's going to help you to stay consistent, which is a big one. A lot of businesses, a lot of times, like they just go ghost out of nowhere. You don't know what happened, whatever. Then they're back, and sometimes I've even got emails like, I know I haven't been, sending emails, but I'm back now. And that person typically is the type of person who goes and comes and goes and comes. And so build things that are repeatable. And that goes with, like I said, being very realistic. Every person, or at least for myself, like I know that I have this dream version of myself of the things that I would love to do and what I would complete and accomplish every single day. But that doesn't really happen. And so just being, honest with yourself and don't overextend yourself is really important. And then, like I said, once you have things that work, you have rhythms that work, just continue to repeat it and make systems out of the things that you do every day so that you can do them quicker, faster. So we're not going to get more time, but you can gain yourself more time by doing systems. Okay. Really simple. All right. Like I talked about, 1 is none, 2 is 1. You need to have backups for everything. And I shared this like before on my list. You never know you need something until it's gone, right? What's the saying? You never know you never appreciate anything until it's gone. For instance, many times people have lost their social media accounts. If that was to happen, what would you do? Do you have a plan? Would you lose all of your contacts overnight? Would you have a way to reach your people? Right. And so with that, if you have an email list and a software, what happens if one day it's erased? So it's not just, or think about, like, let's say you have, your documents of like your insurance, your EIN, all your important business aspects. And then there's a house fire or something, y'all forbid, right? So taking time, and this could just look like, it doesn't have to look like an everyday thing, but it can look like every month you're making these small strides. So did you know that you can back up all your contacts, all your messages, all your like followers, all that information from Instagram and Facebook? If you didn't know, now you know, and you need to go ahead and back that stuff up. Okay. Because you don't want to do all this hard work and then it just be gone in a blink of an instant. And it's just because you just thought things were always going to be up. Life is a cycle. There's ups and there's down, and you need to prepare for the down. When you are up, you need to not just enjoy things lavishly, right? Just like Joseph did, right? So 7 years of plenty, 7 years of lack, right? And so there was preparation. And so that's what you need to do in your business. And if you have systems and you just keep following the systems, even when there's extra, you have a system for what you're going to do with it. And that makes sure that no matter what happens, you're steady and you're consistent. One of the things that like I said, the father is really pruning me, working on our business and really kind of like making sure it is the foundation. He is, I always say that I'm the CEO, but he's really, the CEO or the founder of the business, right? In heavenly places first. But he's showing me that, like, he told me very clearly that the goal that I set, which I'm not going to share here, I'll share things like that involved, but the goal that I set is achievable and it's attainable, and I'm going to get there. I already have every single thing that I need, that I just need to stay consistent and implement, right? And so, um, with that, what was I trying to say? Now I've lost my point. Um, and I don't even know what I was trying to say. I don't know. Oh, yes, I do know. Okay. But he showed me, he said, and if basically that I will get there, that he's giving me everything that I need. But do I even really believe that I will get that thing? And the reason and the way that it was revealed to me that I didn't really, like I shared in the beginning, like a lot of times people really don't believe in themselves. They really don't believe in their business. I really wasn't believing that it was already received to me, like that it was already mine, because I didn't even have a plan for it. And so, like, if said thing happened to me tomorrow, I would be like, oh, okay, now what do I do? Once you have it, now what do you do with it? And so that's why it's very important to go through the proper stages in the right time. So when you don't have whatever the said thing is, and this is for myself too, if you feel like he's being very slow, right? And you're like, you showed me this vision, when is it happening? I've been waiting. Maybe it's because you didn't do the actual preparation. And maybe, like I said, maybe it's because you lack faith or whatever it is. Maybe you lack something yet. But have a plan for what it is that you say that you want. So if you have a goal of making this amount of money, what are you going to do with it? A lot of times, like I said, I started off in the beginning talking about like revenue versus, cash flow, and how it's very important. You need to steward the things that you have. A lot of times you may want this much income, and maybe you can find that much income if you just reorganize the things that you have, if you just switch things around, like I talked about. So that's very important. All right, now we are on number 8, and I kind of talked about this, but like facts over feelings. It's really important to do this to separate yourself from the business, because you are very close. And when you are a business owner that's close, like if you like there's a business, Mael Organics, and there's like a lot of videos about like the founders, specifically the husband who would write nasty messages to people who left bad reviews or whatever. That is a really good example of people being way too close in their business and needing to either have someone else handle it or learn emotional regulation, like I talked about. And so you and your emotions can really spoil something good. You have to really look at things logically and look at what the facts are and not what the emotions are. So, in a business, the customer is always right. Now, is the customer always right? No, right? So if you're in business, you know that. But basically, you have to you have to know when to cut your losses, right? You can't get emotional about things. You have to try to look at it from their point of view, right? And then you look at the facts. So let's say an issue, happens, and like with an order or something like that. And then they're spewing, negative things at you, blah, 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 whatever. And so in the moment, you're like, you might want to retaliate. You might want to block them. You might want to do all those things. But as, a business owner, right? You have to think about like what an employee for you, how would they handle the situation? They're going to do whatever if they're doing their job right, they're going to do whatever it is to make the customer happy, even if the customer was wrong, even if the customer isn't, isn't a joy to work with, right? Or whatever. So that's what they should want to do. And so you could also look at things of like I said, if a person purchases from you, they're more likely to purchase from you than someone who is a stranger. So treat your people well, right? And so there have been times where someone, went all the way left right? And so maybe they should have been blocked, or maybe they should have had, XYZ. But by you, like, do to others as you would have them do to you, right? By you doing the right thing, you can actually soften their heart, right? And then you might even cultivate a really good customer relationship with that person over many different years. But you don't know that. And especially when you're in the moment, you're thinking about what feels right to me now. Like, I want to be right. Like, I want to get them back. They hurt me and I want to retaliate. But learning in business, it really is important just to have facts over feelings. And so I can't hone that enough. Sometimes, like I said, I had to say, okay, other than your pride, like, there really is no real issue. And so you have to, things like your pride comes before a fall, right? Things like your feelings and all of that can drift, and it can be misleading. So you don't want to sabotage your business. And that's where the self sabotage comes into play. But you don't know until you're in it. But try to work on these things now, and business will definitely bring out the best in you or bring out the worst in you. All right, number 9. What gets measured gets improved. Actually, I've been saying the numbers wrong because I actually did number 1. I didn't say number 1. So this is actually number 10, almost done. What gets measured gets improved. And this is so important because a lot of times in business, I'll tell you, when you first start in business, you just care about like the sales. You're not looking a lot of times at, or the followers, right? Things that really in hindsight don't mean much, right? That's not gonna pay your software bill. That's not gonna renew your business license, right? It's not gonna do any of those things. Um, but we tend not to. And even myself, we're getting much, much, much more into reports, but don't look at the actual metrics. And again, this is the facts over feelings. Like, what do your numbers actually say? Sometimes when you are having a business, your business is like your baby. Many people say that, right? And so we get so attached to things. Like, and I've had to learn like to emotionally attach from a lot of things. Like, um, I've hired people to work on my website, but I've been doing it for years. I can do it really fast. I can do it how I like. So like my website is usually me doing it. At some point, maybe later on, someone else will do it. But like sometimes I get in love with like a sales page or the way that I have things or whatever. And it's just hard to even just change small things like that. Um, a big thing is like making things and you like them, but you're not thinking about like, does your customer client actually like that? Does it actually resonate with them? And so it's not about what you like in business. A lot of times people are choosing things based on what they like, and not actually thinking about the person first. And that's one of the things that you have to do. Now, sometimes one of the things that I've had to learn is I like doing certain things, but my audience doesn't resonate with it, right? And so I've had to cut things off, things that I love to do. I had to get rid of different things because it just didn't make sense financially. And so, like I said, a business is not a person, it's not emotional. It has, one goal, right? It has one real need, and that is income, right? It's cash flow, right? Revenue. And so, if it's not getting you closer to that, you have to sometimes detach from things. And so, when you're setting a business up, it is your baby, it's your love child, and you love what you do and everything like that. But you really have to understand that you need to not just do what you like. So, like for me, I don't like I said, I don't like social media or whatever. But I do know that you need to, in today's day and age, you need to have a social presence. What it can look like in my business is it doesn't have to look like me posting 3-4 times a day, and it probably will never look like that or whatever. But it can look like that and also doing other things. So, like I said, I'm an introverted person. I'm a writer, so I can, like I've been doing, I can write books, and I can write and collaborate with other people offline. I can do in-person events, like I can do all these different things. And so, but I'd be remiss, and I know that our business would not see the results that we're having if I didn't show up in that way. So, facts over feelings. So it's not always about what you feel like, and that's a big thing of why people don't start. It's because of the emotional. They don't like the way they look. They don't like the way they speak. They're scared. They're this, they're that. And they let that stop them instead of just doing the thing that they know that they need to do. So facts over feelings. All right. So that's all that I have for you. I got within my hour. So I'm really happy about that. If you have any questions, leave them in the business vault. That is a place where I will actually respond to any questions. This will be up for a little bit and then it'll be strictly for the vault. I'll be back. I don't know about a live stream, but I'll be back with the video probably next Tuesday. So do all the things that platforms love, like it, share it, do all those things, leave a comment, let me know what your biggest takeaway